Okay, here we go. Started the video. Hello everybody that's going to be watching this. I'm Blitz. I'm a professional Dota 2 caster slash commentator. Was a former professional player. I am joined here by Kyle, who I guess Kyle, you are a former professional slash current professional player who has played at. Can I say several TIs?
Yeah, it's a little
Several
bit of a
TIs.
stretch, but we'll
A
count
little
it.
bit of a stretch, but you have been at TIs, and you will also be working as a commentator for this year's international.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay, so what we're going to
nice.
be doing here today is just going over the replays of the games that I played against the OpenAI. We're going to specifically look at game number one and number three. Of course, I played the game, but I have not watched this replay yet. Kyle, you sort of have an idea of what went down. I assume you read Reddit, so you know how this kind of went down.
Yeah, I knew how it was gonna play out, and
Did you?
I didn't want to see my fellow humans get crushed, so I didn't tune in. This will be my first experience.
Okay.
I'm real excited.
Easy. All right. So on three, two, one, zero, we'll start the replay. Okay.
All right, ready.
Three, two, one, zero. Okay.
Dire
So
team pick.
when the draft phase started, I guess we'll give you our thoughts behind what was good slash bad.
Radiant
We knew that
team pick.
Earthshaker was probably going to be very good, just because we felt like Fog of War Heroes would be pretty disruptive to the AI, and we felt like Echo Slam was always going to be a somewhat useful ability.
Mhm.
I think the issue here is that we thought that Necro was going to be
Radiant
really
team
good.
pick.
So the bot,
That's terrifying.
yeah,
Immediate lich from the robots, like that's just.
it kept picking Lich first. Apparently, its priority was highest for Lich. Like out of
Mhm.
all the heroes in the pool, Lich was the hero that it had the most
Dire
success with.
team pick.
Gyrocopter!
Makes sense. The two heroes they picked, like I think Gyro's always been meta for like a really long time, just because it's just like the perfect hero in a lot of ways. You got like all of your spells are useful, and theoretically there's no carry in the game that can deal more damage in like that flak window, especially as it scales later
10
on.
seconds
You have really good
remaining.
timings as well. Did it just go drums BKB?
It went
Radiant
some. It
team
actually
pick.
didn't go BKB, if I remember correctly.
Necrophos.
So then we
Yeah,
took Necro, and we thought it
I
was
don't know if I
broken,
like
but it was bad.
I don't like this already. I don't know what you. They have like so much magic damage right now. Your Necros just seems like it's gonna feed, kind of
Well,
run you over.
yeah, Kyle. Well, we understood that after game one.
Dire
Yeah.
team pick.
Sniper!
Wow.
So
Yeah,
then
they
it,
just
yeah,
it just lots of damage. Like both Sniper and Gyro have this like really I don't know how to put it. The robots probably understand graphs better than me, but like the way they deal damage throughout the game is a balance of magical and physical, and it ramps up pretty
10
linearly, I would
seconds
say.
remaining.
Like it's never like there's this massive timing you have to hit or miss. You're
5
kind of just always
seconds
strong
remaining.
when you're ahead.
yeah. So what we understood too about the game itself was that we did feel like Earthshaker was pretty strong, but we felt like Gyrocopter, and talking to some other pros after the game about it, we felt that Gyro was probably the most important hero in the pool. Like I know that the bot prioritized Lich the highest, but I think Gyro was up there, uh, equal if not even more than that, just because I think that Gyro,
Radiant
it's a
team
killer.
pick.
And in this pool of
Captivating.
heroes, there weren't a lot of killers because Gyro has solo kill potential on anybody with homing missile, right?
Yep.
Plus rocket barrage. Whereas, like if you look at the heroes that are on the board
Dire
right now,
team pick.
there's not a lot of heroes that just go in and get kills.
Yep. And they picked, I would say, the three heroes with the highest raw damage output, specifically in the mid game, that were available. Like not just in this pool, but like as far as Dota goes.
Yeah.
They also have innate survivability mechanisms where Sniper is just gonna chill in the back. Gyrocopter
10
just sort of
seconds
runs
remaining.
into Death Prophet. Like I think that they identified what I would say
Dire
the two
team
most
pick.
broken core combo. Like it is the most broken core
Razor.
combo. Mineski won the only major of the season because they abused Gyro Death Prophet. Like every game, they would first two those heroes whenever available.
Yeah. So then we open up Razor. We thought that we just needed a hero that was somewhat independent, which you're gonna find, by the way, was like
10
the worst
seconds
idea of all time,
remaining.
just because of the way that the bot plays the meta. And then we had the last hero
5
pick,
seconds
and if I remember
remaining.
correctly here, we took Shadow Fiend.
see.
Radiant team pick.
Shadow Fiend.
I don't know how I feel about this draft. Who was the drafter? It looks like William Lee.
That was
William
indeed
Lee
me.
drafted.
That was indeed me. Okay, so the SF was actually great, by the way, in game.
The SF is good. The Razor, I've made this mistake in like real matches, so I don't blame you. But Razor is never the pick.
Lion.
Choose
So it takes
your hero.
Lion. And yeah, so this was the lineup. We felt like our laning phase was okay. We just felt like our mid game should be a lot stronger, as well as our team fight should just be a lot stronger.
The thing is, how do you ever get to the team? The problem is you're item dependent for your team fights. They never really are. Like I don't know what's gonna happen. I know that they like quad laned mid at the start of the game, so it'll be interesting to see how that functions. Did they well wait, I'll wait. I don't want to comment before I see it, but
Yeah.
I'd say SF's probably the most level 1 mid in the game. But other than that, I like them.
Okay, so we smoke up. That is like the one thing that we knew we were gonna do. We were gonna smoke up, try to find a fight. Wasn't really sure what rune they were gonna go to, but we felt like
Wow.
maybe we could just take like a decent level 1, because we know that Lich has sacrifice, right? And we do have a really strong level 1 team with Crystal Maiden plus Earthshaker.
This is so interesting. They all start no regen and just roll stats.
Yeah. Oh, if you notice, they have 5 couriers.
Oh, is that a game mode? Oh, it's a game mode thing. Okay.
Yeah. So since they have 5 couriers, I think the bot can't quite do individual couriers yet. So they've got 5 couriers,
30
and so they kind of
seconds to
adapted to
battle.
the meta in that regard.
Mhm.
Whereas we were playing sort of outdated Dota.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they secure top rune.
yeah. The thing that see, it's just so hard to coordinate like this. As far as yeah, I'm just like watching them wiggle around.
The battle
Dance
begins.
pattern. They just 5 top still? Do they team it
Where's
out?
my pension for me?
Yeah. So you're gonna find this is like the weirdest part about it is that they start as like some weird quad lane collective to begin the game. And you would think like that this should be so advantageous to us, right? The fact that they start like they're laning like this in some weird configuration. Like I essentially get a free mid lane to start. Look at mid. The
Yeah,
sniper
double
bot,
trap.
double shrapnels on the ground. I was like, sure, why not? I picked up a soul pretty early on. I kind of knew at that point like the bot wasn't perfect when it came to mechanical skill. Like it made errors and stuff like that.
First blood.
But up at top, I don't know if you caught that, but they just dove under the tower, level 1 to kill Merlini.
I missed it, but I feel like I know what happened.
Yeah,
It's
they just
so-
dove him under the
so
tower.
Weird. Like even the Lich bot bottom took like a few extra seconds to like deny stuff. So it's just cool that they double warded for their tri-lane aggressive top. So obviously this is the strategy.
Yeah. The weird part too is that they decide to aggro with 2 cores, which is not something we see very often. Also, they're fantastic at denying. That is like the one mechanical skill thing that was absurd apparently, is that Ben had a hard time just getting CS. But you'll notice in mid lane, it wasn't that bad for me whatsoever.
They are really good at things as far as the time on the attacks.
Yeah, like they do it very well in terms of like how all 3 heroes hit.
Is missing.
We also
That's
noticed,
like
by the way, that they didn't deal with the pull very well.
Probably just because you're introducing new variables. They don't pull though, like ever.
Yeah.
I'm watching top down, so they just shove out this lane. I guess
For you.
it's too big for them to handle. And one of the cool things, like in Dota, it's just called. Yeah, man,
Mission middle.
that's pretty nice. But it's really hard to get players to coordinate as well as they are, just because obviously to get the timing at the same frame where it's like
Top is
1.8 attacks
missing.
to kill the creep. If they just both attack at the same time, like it's actually just not possible to get CS. Like one person in theory should not ever. But
Yeah.
humans are fallible.
So they grab I mean, they grab just another kill. They rotate down to bottom. You'll notice that the bot is really good at this. Like, it gets away with a certain amount of HP every single time. Then our team rotates to top to try to get the kill onto the gyro. I think we're pretty unsuccessful here, actually. Because Fogg already uses Fissure. Bot's just going to run around, pop the salve. Like, mid lane is great for me, though. At this point, 14-4. I find a regen rune at top. I'm telling my team, like, my game at least is very good to start. Also, we wanted to know how the bot would deal with Invis, so I felt like Shadow Fiend was just a good pick. We were going to pick up Shadow Blade pretty early on.
It's interesting, the sniper went boots instead of more stat items. Like stats regen. Typically you see people just going raw stats that skip boots for later because it doesn't give you a last hitting.
Yeah.
No,
I think
no.
it just realized like SF is or Shadow Fiend is a threat on the map at all times. Because if he doesn't have boots and I have boots, I simply just walk up, raise him twice, and then he dies. That's like the benefit of playing this matchup. Something I should note too is that Fogg had a really hard time coming online for game number 1 and 2.
Top is missing.
I think part of it was just like he didn't really know where to be because we couldn't really kill anybody on the map.
Dire's top
And
tower
so the game
is
just
under
felt really
attack.
difficult for him.
I think if that rotation mid just waits for nighttime and land that kill mid, that's going to be huge for you guys. It's unfortunate to miss. Because right now you're winning the game. And I would say you have a big advantage if you just keep your towers alive.
Yeah, so you're going to realize that's the hard part about playing against the AI, is that it does a very good job of knocking down the early tier 1s, and then it takes way too much map control, in my opinion anyways.
Outplayed.
Just like shoving it top. The rotation of the supports is really interesting.
What, the fact that they decided to move everybody down bottom?
Yeah. That's right. He gets dog TPs there, maybe he gets to save immediate smoke.
Yeah, we actually saw that because they did it under
This'll come in handy.
vision, but they ran for the bounty rune.
Missing middle.
This will come in handy.
Then they said we estimate the winning probability be above 99%. At that point, our team was like minor upset about that. Because it's hard not to get tilted by that.
Top is missing.
It's a lot of confidence for like 300 gold league.
Yeah. So Fogg had a sick block there. Just continues to block. I think I get stunned here. But my team did a really good job of letting me hit the last hit.
I see you in the abyss.
Put the gyro bottom. He shrine top? Yeah, he did. They put the sniper. So this is something you just never see in Dota, where they just do the 3-lane swap. Like, you will never see a mid just rotate to the off lane like this, but this is really cool. And very effective, because Razor is not suited to laning against a sniper, especially when he's this far behind. And they sort of neuter the Shadow Fiend's advantage, which is the big benefit of like your game. Like, you're the one's going to take over. They
Dire's
just put a
top
Lich in your
tower
lane now.
is under attack.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I thought too. Like, I went to bottom, by the way, they had the most random sentry of all time down here. Which kind of just made my gank attempt null.
They
I
had
w-
2 sentries.
They had 2 sentries on the gun, yeah. I do run out of vision and Fog lands a nice fissure to stop that. But it just felt like whatever kind of rotation we were making felt really useless, and whatever rotation they were making felt like it was just doing too much.
Yeah. I think that part of it is like you guys just seem a little lost here. Like Fogg had nothing to really do for the last few minutes. If he had got a couple stacks
Top
off, like as
is
soon as the Lich
missing.
goes mid, I think you just throw the CM mid like you have already. You can just farm the woods, take shrine, like accelerate.
Yeah.
Although I will say like that is a random ass word. Like that's just strange.
So something I noticed here, by the way, too, that I really want to point out now that we're watching the game or whatever, is that their decision to send the sniper to the off lane. So sniper's probably the most vulnerable hero, and typically you would think that sending him to the off lane or the lane which is the longest for him is really unsafe, but just the way that Dota is played nowadays, we're largely avoiding playing the safe lane, and so it should know, or it knows that it's the safest place for it to be. So Fog lands a really nice fissure. I get the double raise off,
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
but they do a really good job of crowd controlling me. We brought everyone down here for this fight, but I think they were just so much faster reacting.
Dire's top tower is under
It's
attack.
not a much easier time. Sniper being the last one to rotate is ideal for them. It's still close, though. That wasn't a terrible exchange for you guys.
Yeah, I thought it was
I-
okay.
Do you want to skip through this pause?
Yeah. So they brought 4 heroes down here. They send their Death Prophet to the off lane, and she just pops her ulti. This is the tower in Dota that strategically we want to defend the least, right? This top tower.
Yeah.
So,
So it's still favorable for them to get it for free. That's the issue.
yeah.
Especially
Radiant's
when they're
middle
pushing
tower
bottom
is
as well.
under
They're
attack.
landing kills, and there's no real way for you to team
Dire's
fight into
structures
this either.
are fortified.
Lich has ult in
Dire's
seconds.
bottom tower is under attack.
So you feel like it's just a mistake to try to attempt that fight at all?
I mean, where's the Shaker?
Dire's bottom
Shaker mid.
tower
I
is
feel
under
like
attack.
there's no need to have. You never want 2 cores at the least important tower. Like I would argue this tower is your least important one to defend. If you're gonna defend a tower, it should be up top against that Death
Radiant's
Prophet.
middle tower
Like
is
if
under
Shaker is
attack.
just mobilizing into that area, you have 1 core TP, preferably the SF. You're gonna find a
Dire's
kill.
bottom tower
Throw
is
like
under
CM
attack.
bottom with Necro, force them to dive that. Razor
Dire's
can
bottom
recover mid,
tower
but
has
the moment
fallen.
you put Razor, when you have 2 cores in the off lane like that, they're just so susceptible
Radiant's
to getting
middle
domed.
tower
There's
is
no real
under attack.
response. If you do, you're overcommitting to like a dead part of the map.
This will come in handy.
I feel like that was just trying to do too much. I don't think you guys are under that much pressure at the moment. Like now it's really rough because they're gonna just collapse on this mid tower next. What's really cool to note is the Lich maxes sacrifice, so they're just abusing the XP advantages because
Yeah.
you gain experience when you deny creeps. So this gets their very level dependent cores and supports really. Like everyone just gets ahead thanks to this. What's XP differential? Actually?
XP, they're up by a little bit more than 2,000. So in mid, they catch fogged. Good invis rune. The line was really patient. He goes down. And at top, Moon Meander's gonna get gone on. There's absolutely no way for him to survive this. And we didn't really know that they were gonna go to top and mid at the same time. Like the thing about Dota is that whenever you represent just like 2 or 3 heroes, you want to try to take the fight where they've got the least amount of people. But it felt like they were just so close at finding each other and grouping up.
They're playing the game very fast. Like even now, like they're just immediately beelining straight towards mid. And again, like it's just impossible for you guys to defend. Line level 6, like they have such a huge level advantage. The DP dives. You
Yeah.
like look at the positioning. Oh,
Yeah, they
Dire's
actually
middle
completely
tower is
sandwiched
under
us.
attack.
yeah. like
That was actually incredible. I didn't even know that they played it like that.
Dire's
that wasn't a
structures
sandwich. They
are
just
fortified.
placed you guys in the coffin and then like
Dire's
shut the
middle
lid.
tower is under
Just
attack.
lowered it gently to the earth. And then took the tower as a bonus.
I mean, we talked about how, especially in competitive Dota, you want to try to defend that tier 1 tower, especially the mid one, because it just controls so much of your jungle.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
But we just couldn't. We just weren't fast enough. And you notice that as soon as I go bottom, the Lich is already there to meet me. And the sad
Yep.
thing is I just can't do anything about it. So they rotate more heroes down here. They're going to collapse on me. They actually missed the dust, but I thought they hit it. And so it pops me out of invis. All my heroes are down here. We were expecting this, and we were trying to get the bait off. And we just couldn't. And you'll notice that the bot always feels like it's in position. Sniper doesn't even die. Oh, this was brutal. It just feels like they're getting the right amount of heroes out for all these engagements.
Well, I feel like at this point in the game, like it's unrecoverable, just due to in some parts like the hero lineups where you don't really have a core that can make plays on the map for you. Razor has no game whatsoever, and same with Necro. Like these guys need to be ahead to really function in the role you want them to have in the game.
Yeah.
So you're all in on the idea that the Shadow Blade is just gonna like take over the game, but they can just run around in circles, and any combination of two heroes is gonna find kills, and they can just stay on map. They have so much self-sustain. They're just funneling salves back and forth. Like I'm looking at the DP couriers, like a Mango, a Raindrop, a Clarity, and a Salve.
So they just continue to dive.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
There's three salves
Dire's
going.
structures are fortified.
Yeah. I guess what I wanted to ask you
Dire's
about was,
bottom tower is under
uh,
attack.
did you feel like we just played this very badly? Was there any like stupid obvious things that we had messed up on?
Radiant's top tower is under attack. Dire's bottom tower has fallen.
I don't think you guys played this
Radiant's
game well
middle
at all,
tower is under
personally.
attack.
I think that you sort of chucked the game away by like it's funny too because they're very human mistakes. Like I don't know how to put it. They're not like low level mistakes, but I remember playing back with Tal, Fly on EG back at TI5 like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And we always discussed how like the easiest way to lose games is to try and defend tier 1s with fewer numbers than your opponents. Then you have an extra guy TP in, but like you still can't turn the fight. So now you like lose 3 players, you lose the tower for sure, and like your TPs are cooldown. Like you just kind of throw away the game. So it's often like almost always better if you can't be sure you're gonna win a fight at a tier 1, you just leave a hero to pull creeps. Like I would say, like, any core, the Razor CM, probably ideal, just because you can aggro the creep waves and just like pull them back, have Shaker behind, and you force then 4 heroes to try and make a dive. Maybe it'll succeed, they'll kill a core, but you don't lose the tower and like 3 more heroes, and you're in your side lanes, your mid lane, like your other heroes are now accelerating. But when you commit to a lane and then lose the fight on the tower, like you're in deep shit, for lack of a better.
Yeah. So, there's a good point for me to make there about that. I think
Dire's
part of
top
it is
tower
that,
is under
and
attack.
people should really realize, like, Dota has a lot to do with just, like, how human behavior works. Is like, we felt like we could do exactly what you said, which is, would have 3 or 4 heroes down there. One guy could continue to play greedy, which was me, and we would just outgreed them.
Dire's
Yeah.
top tower has fallen.
The way they move around the map is excellent, though. Like, even there, they had the gyro TP's bottom to collect the pressure, shoves out the lane. Top lane, you finish the tier 2, the
Dire's
bots turn
top
and fight.
tower is under attack.
They end up trading very favorably, considering the situation they were in. Holy crap, yeah, they get 3 for 2 up top, while Lion is pushing out middle, now Lich, and Gyro's just been bottom the entire time as well. So it's just really efficient usage of the
Dire's
map.
top
And
tower
one point
is
to
under
make is
attack.
just the very beginning. I think this concept of like giving a core like Lich a solo lane, and like tri-lane with
Radiant's
2
middle
cores is
tower
actually
is
such an
under
interesting
attack.
concept, because if your support gets ahead, he'll be able to like rotate lanes and have a massive impact, and it's far easier for cores to catch up into a game than a support, because they're able to like sit in a lane, take CS. The supports, if you're behind and you're forced to move around the map, like you end up just being lost with no game. Just sort of like what we saw happen to Fogged in this game, where he's just like level 2, level 3, and then that decisive fight that happened at the tier 1 where I was flaming you guys, he was just recovering mid because he's like, I'm a level 3 Earthshaker, this is miserable. I'm gonna just try and get something here.
Yeah. So what you're saying essentially is they sacrificed the early part of the, their core sacrificed the early part of the game so that everyone could have a good game collectively.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a concept that I've always like agreed with. Like I think one of the more underrated aspects of Dota is to get your
Radiant's
supports
top
ahead,
tower
because you
is
want
under
all
attack.
5 players involved in the game.
Radiant structures are fortified.
Partly because then you're not as
Dire's
reliant
bottom
on like,
tower is under
you
attack.
don't want human error to just lose you a game because one guy makes a mistake. And in addition, like, it's just for the mental aspect of it, right? Where it just feels good. Also, these rockets like come out instantly. Same with the hexes.
You're not
Like,
there
they're
to see them.
very, very fast, and like this dive is super nice. They always have salves. Like they're not losing anything.
Yeah.
They
Pause
keep
the game
gyro
here.
out immediately. Yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 things that I want to talk about here. I think it'd be really easy for me to say that we got mechanically outskilled, which might be true to a certain extent, but I didn't think it was the reason we lost. Like, I didn't think that it was so... There was going to be one instance that you see of the Hex on a Fogged, but even he said, I think, that he messed up in that instance. but it never felt like we were. Because I saw a lot of people talk about how we were just mechanically outskilled from the get-go. But I think we should just like nip
I,
that in the bud and say that we probably just got out-strategied.
yeah, I think you were heavily outstratted. I think skill-wise, there's no real difference between these teams. I think they just executed a game plan and just trying to think of like an apt military analogy. Um, like you got Carthaged.
So there's always this like saying that Kuro has, Kuroki, the
Mhm.
captain of Liquid, that I really fell in love with. He said that somebody's game has to be bad so that somebody else's game can be good. Like
Mhm.
you have to. Part of most of Dota is that one person will sacrifice their success so that everybody else can succeed. Oftentimes that's going to be their carry player Matoma Man is going to have a really rough game, but by him having a rough game, every other player on Liquid has a very good game. Whereas I think in this game, part of it is that none of us wanted to look bad because of the circumstances. We obviously all wanted to play well individually because like I mean, this is a weird high stakes game, right? We still want to show up and play. And so I think especially for myself, if I'm just admitting it, like I was focused too much on like how well I was doing. Like as long as I was getting a good game, I felt like I was going to be able to carry. And you'll notice that I am the highest level. I've got the highest net worth. Like my game went excellently, and it did not matter even in the least.
Yeah, I think that's just as you said, it's like the team mentality versus five individuals. I think every bot has like had a massive impact in this game,
Yes.
and they all understand their roles. I think the Lich following SF from lane to lane is very interesting because it slows down your progression. You don't want to sit in a lane where you're getting 3 out of every 4 creeps in a wave
Yeah.
just by default, and you also can't pressure tower because you skilled armor at level 4. So you're just sad. The only way to really respond to that would be to like set up moves on the Lich, but this strategy is something I don't think any of you would have ever encountered in the combined like 30,000 games of Dota you probably played.
Yeah. So that's something I realized too is that it felt really weird when I was playing it in game. It felt like for whatever reason, and obviously I know this now watching this game, but it feels like in game that no matter what move that I would normally make that would likely pay off just didn't. It was like I would go to one tower, I'd go top, I'd pressure out the lane, and then there would just be a Lich there. And I couldn't dive him. I just felt really scared at all times. Whereas most human players would just kind of abandon that area.
Yeah.
And the rest of
It
the team would farm and someone would get picked off.
that leads to a really cool point. Like Dota, I think movement is something that's very underrated by like the layman as to its importance on a game, and it's very hard to understand or explain because it's like a dance where if you miss one step you're going to miss the next 4. So just the minutia of what they're doing, like who's rotating to what lane, when they teleport, like how they rotate across the map, it's very smart. And it's there's a EV, like expected values, like a poker term that a lot of people use. Their movements are very, very strong. I think the mid dive is a perfect example where they get the kill top and then they're collapsing mid as 5. And the worst case scenario for them is they're going to collect a support and take out the most crucial of your towers by like before 10 minutes. And that's something that requires like a lot more coordination than people would think, because it's very commonplace for, as you're saying, someone might just want to push top. You'll never see people like leave free lanes at times in pubs specifically because it feels bad. You want to just keep accelerating, get yourself further ahead in the game. And part of why Dota at its core is a very captain and leadership based game is because you need to have one plan that 5 people are executing if you're going to be the best. And I think if you look at the top teams that we have, they all, like Kuroki is a great example of an incredibly strong captain. His team executes a game plan and then they thrive.
Yeah. I think part of the problem here is okay, so there is one moment in this game where I felt like, man, no human player would be able to make that play. If I'm just honest, like the hex on the fogged, but it shouldn't have come to this point where we're down 6,000 gold
Yeah.
at 18 minutes to begin with. Um, I don't know. This game felt really weird because normally if I'm playing a hero like Shadow Fiend, I can use my 2 nukes, I can double raise the wave out, I can put pressure on a tower. Then what'll end up happening is that that's what forces people to split up. Like people don't really understand this, but when you push in waves, what it does is you get it closer to the tower, somebody responds by teleporting up there, and then it just opens up the other four heroes on the map because they're not coordinated anymore. It
Yep.
slows down the game plan. It makes it so that everyone's like, well, what now? One guy left because you're not going to send four heroes up there. You're just going to send one guy, and then everyone on the map should be susceptible to getting killed. There should be some sort of pressure being laid out on the map. But it felt like that the AI was just really good at grouping up. They would send one hero. It was almost always the Lich to slow me down. Then as soon as I was gone, because eventually I'm not just going to stand up there, he would just leave, join up for the rest of his team, and they would just continue to put pressure on our towers.
Yeah, I think so the part of this game, if you're gonna review this from like a competitive standpoint, like what did we do wrong? It's all about the tier ones. I think the Death Prophet taking the tier one top for free while losing 3 heroes in tier one bottom, then you get sandwiched mid. Like at that point, there isn't really much for you to do. You're relying on the enemies to make mistakes to win the game. But they're in the driver's seat, and that's something it's very important in Dota is tempo control, and they have the ability to make moves. And thanks to their draft, like they have so much raw damage. There's no save for any of your heroes. Like, if someone gets stunned or hexed, even just Yules in the face, like a rocket chases you, like you actually just die. All 5 of their heroes can set up kills, and the rest of the team is very adept at just following up and ensuring that they land it. And they're always on map, which is something that I think is a distinct advantage they have over you, where they're just doing much better with courier usage and highly prioritizing regen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to continue?
I don't know how much more of this game is honestly useful to watch. At this point, it just comes down to the fact that we couldn't hold high ground. They were just a little bit
Yeah.
too far ahead. And then we get double racks and the game is just sort of over. Probably just
Yeah.
skip ahead to game number 3.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, what was really funny is after game 1 had happened, we were just like, they were like, okay, you get to draft your heroes, and then we just were like, somehow we came to the exact conclusion that we should just steal the bots lineup.
Okay.
That we just came like every time, like hero after hero, we're like, guys, Lich looks like a really good hero, let's play it. Then it was like, wait, you know what? Gyro seemed really OP, and then we just kept stealing their lineup. And then we
Yeah.
last picked Necro because they had 4 melee heroes and an axe and a Sven, so it just seemed like a really free Necro game.
Yeah. I think the gyro. The one thing I would say, are you watching the game at all, or are we just talking about this? But
I'm
I
just
think
chatting.
gyrocopter is back for that reason. I think we'll see it at TI, and this game kind of demonstrates why. Because it's just so easy to play around. It feels like the hero is never really doing something wrong. If you show up in a lane to try and find a kill, you're probably you're great at that. If you want to flash farm, take stacks, you can do that. Like you have so many options.
Yeah.
And part of what makes Dota so difficult and complex is that at every facet of the game, there's so many options and decisions that you could be making.
Yeah.
You could be stacking, you could be farming, you could be setting up a gank, you could be positioning defensively, yada yada yada. And it's not just your enemies that are important, it's your own teammates. What are they doing? How are they playing the game? And it's just so hard to do all of these things correctly. I don't know. I'm watching the start of this game. They're quad laning bottom, and like it's just some sauce right here. It's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so we figured that this actually didn't work because they were missing a crucial element that they had in the previous games that we now had, which was just the ability to kill people.
Yeah.
Like the gyrocopter and all this stuff made it just so easy to get kills.
Yep. And I think that's like a really good point. And that's the issue with the Razor Necro, where once they're behind, they have no method of getting kills. So their only option is to try and recover and farm the map. And when the enemy team is ahead and more adept at finding kills, like you just end up feeding at some point. And that's what happened. And I also think you played this a much better, where you didn't just abandon lanes. You keep someone mid at all times. It's your Necro. You don't feed at this like initial dive. You just pull the creeps away. It's no big deal. That one death under tower, I think of the Lion, like that's good for you guys in the grand scheme of things, because he got a full XP off the wave, and it takes so many resources for them to complete that dive.
Yeah. I'm at 340 in game, but what we realized that was pretty interesting about this game too is that they killed Moon and they just kept killing him. Like they did everything in their power to ruin his game, more or less. Then they went for this dive at top
Radiant's
at
top
4
tower
minutes,
is under attack.
and they actually got more kills than I feel like they should have with the type of lineup that they had. Like the score right now is 4-7, despite them having the most garbage lineup I've ever seen in Dota 2.
Yeah.
Is missing.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
It's like
Double damage.
TPs are nice too.
Is missing.
Trying to see like what their item decisions are. They all make sense. They prioritize boots on like all their heroes, which is interesting. Like first item on the
Yeah.
Slark, Sven, and Axe after they their initial.
No
so they
Quill
just
or
prioritize
anything.
the ability to move around map.
Yeah.
Although this is much simpler if you have resources at all times, thanks to a free courier, like just funneling you regen.
Yeah.
It's an easier decision to make.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the one knock on the bot I felt is that the regen game felt a little bit different. It did change.
Yeah.
It did feel like it changed the meta more than it should
Yeah.
have. I still feel like, if I'm being dead honest, like it's easy for me to say that, but we did just get outmoved around the map.
My bounty.
Yeah. Nah, the first game, you guys like it was just really bad. The first 8 minutes, like you lost the game. It doesn't matter if you recovered and like learned from it,
Radiant's top
because at
tower
that
is
point,
under attack.
like they really did have a 99% chance of winning the game.
Yeah.
Especially considering that they weren't going to make like those critical errors because it's
Dire's
it's
middle
coded.
tower is
Yeah.
under
They
attack.
know how to close a game. That's what separates good from great teams, and what you'll see at this TI where like the Liquids, if you give them the advantage that the human team did in that first game, like that's it. Like they're gonna collect that and they're gonna take a free win. Dota is very much like an easy game to finish when you're in a position like to win. It's sort of like just not crashing on the last lap when you've got, a quarter-mile lead at the last like at Daytona. Like you just
Yeah.
have to not crash, and they do not.
Yeah.
What are these wards? They double
Radiant's
warded by
bottom
accident
tower
in this
has
bottom
been
lane.
denied.
Yeah, that
And
they also
maybe the
messed that
tower
up.
Dire's
deny.
middle tower
Yeah.
is under attack.
So they sort of learned from that in game. They spent suicides to kill the tier 2 later on. But you'll notice in this game, especially like with how easy mid was, because they just didn't send anybody mid this time around. They didn't have their. What I noticed that was really different is because they don't have the Lich to just sit there and defend the tower,
Dire's
they don't have
middle
something
tower
that just
is
pulls
under
it back
attack.
and plays defense. So no one really wanted to be there on their team.
Yeah, and look, now you can just do exactly what they did in game one. You're just here with 3 cores that are incredibly strong. Lion runs up, like there's nothing you can really do
Dire's
here
middle
as team
tower
bot
has
to
fallen.
contest this tower push.
That's we just essentially stole their strategy. And we sent our own Lich down to bottom, but they just dove him. But it doesn't really matter at this point. I felt like this game was like much easier to play.
Yeah.
And I see 2 heroes up at top. I think I was the one that
Radiant's top
teleported
tower
here,
is under
if I remember
attack.
correctly, which I was.
Mission bottom.
Dota memory's still good.
Is missing.
Because I just felt like I was unkillable in this game. Like it was my job to be the one to be up here to defend this tower.
I would agree. You're the one that wants to be dove, and then it's so easy for your team to play around you.
Yeah. And that's exactly what's happening right now. You'll see Fogged comes in, completely whiffs the stun, but it doesn't really matter.
And that's what I would have liked to see in game one, but it's much more difficult. This game, it's a Sven, an Axe, and a Riki, not
Yeah.
your lineup. But if that's what should happen if the gank is played out accordingly, where you bait the hero that's strongest, he just kills time, his supports can come in, and now you've just completely overextended on the OpenAI team, and suddenly you're in trouble. And in the meantime, you were farming 2 lanes, Gyro pushed out bottom, DP pushed out mid, he's recovering. Final point on the first game is something else I really wanted to bring up was the sniper going top was brilliant, and I think that's something else we might see more in the future. Is that if the mid gets this big advantage and you have some hero you can just plant there, a la a
Radiant's
Lich,
bottom tower
you just
is
send
under
them to
attack.
go up against the opposing carry.
Dire's
You have a
top
hero
tower is
advantage,
under
a
attack.
2-level advantage, and it's so hard. Like you don't want to play in your safe lane as you turn into the mid game in Dota. You want to be able to play around the enemy jungle because it gives you the ability to threaten 2 lanes and to remove the enemy
Dire's
woods
top
as an
tower
area for
is
them to
under
acquire
attack.
resources and advantage.
Radiant's
So
bottom tower
how
is
do you
under
contest
attack.
this sniper when you have a Razor in your safe lane? Like, it's really not possible. You could kill him by bringing 3-4 heroes there, but now what? Like, what does that accomplish for you?
Yeah, because you're not getting the objective off of that. It's not
Radiant's
easy to
middle
take that
is
tower
under attack.
right after.
Yeah.
It's a really good point. Okay,
It's
so
relieving pressure. You're not actually applying any.
yes.
You're just
playing catch up essentially. The other team is still now in control of the tempo, leading the dance, and you're just responding. That's never where you want to be in Dota. It's very important to have the initiative.
So you notice in this game too, they're still making similar moves. Like they brought 2 core heroes mid. In fact, I'd say I don't even know who qualifies as what in this kind of game. But they bring a bunch of heroes here. They take the mid tower. Like they're still doing, in my opinion,
They're
like
actually owning you.
I wouldn't
It,
go.
like, should be possible.
Yeah, with their lineup, it was kind of sad for a bit.
If this is like 2 teams of humans, the dire lineup's running down mid, like
Yeah.
already, like from the draft. And
Nobody really wants to play this.
No.
Regeneration.
So the fact that it is as close as it is something I want to point out. So what the bot did, let's say, like let's skip to what's like a good time to skip? Okay, so if you come down to about 15 minutes and 50 seconds in game, 15:50, or I'm at 15:51, I guess.
All right, I'm at 15:53.
Okay, let me just catch up to you real fast. Okay, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so you'll notice that the Slark is just kind of wasting time at bottom. So what they're doing right here is a concept that I think everyone should have pretty good approximate knowledge of, is that it's just trying to keep the creep waves pushed in at all times. Like you'll notice at the same time the Sven is pushing out top. So we send 3 heroes down to deal with bottom. They send 1 hero down to push in mid, and they send the Sven here up to pressure top. And what they're doing essentially is they're just giving themselves more opportunities.
You have a Radiance.
I do. I mean,
Interesting.
this item was GG once I got it.
It was. It's a great item. It's just
The timing of I mean, I had a free lane. Nobody came to my lane. Like
That's true. That is true.
But yeah, what they're doing is at all times, like you notice at bottom, the axe immediately goes to the creep skip.
Yeah.
At mid, they're always applying pressure to all 3 lanes at once, which is probably what we should have been doing in the game that we were behind, but they do it pretty effortlessly. And I guess the reason why I want to highlight this, or why it's important, is that what it does is it just gives you more opportunities on the map at all times. Because if you think about it, eventually we will slip up and we'll send the wrong hero to the wrong place, and if they get 1 kill, then suddenly it feels like the game is reset.
Yep. Not to mention, if you die shoving the lane like we've seen, it's not that much of a punish because you're 30 seconds ahead in that lane now because their wave is dead and yours is alive and walking towards the enemy. So even though they find that kill, they have to now catch the creep wave. Like you're a creep wave ahead. So you're buying time, especially if there's multiple heroes in the lane. Like you're not actually losing anything. And this is something VP I would say does the best in the world at the moment. They're always playing 3 lanes. And it allows them to then connect with their heroes to find kills, or in the event you die, you just immediately swarm the other ends of the map because you've forced enemies into an area that is now dead.
Yeah. So you'll notice that this is happening again, where the Slark, yes, he died, but we call this like a net neutral death because it doesn't really do anything. Like we don't really care. They don't really care that he died because he's just gonna go bottom and do the same thing. And what he's doing is he's opening up the rest of the map for his team. So either what you're doing is you're forcing them into a decision, which is either we come back and somebody goes to defend this, or they make a move on the other side of the map. So we send Moon Meander here because we just need 1 defensive hero here. Mid, the Queen of Pain is being aggressive. And then what they want to do is create some sort of movement on the map, try to catch somebody, right? And they're just going to keep shuttling heroes around until they find somebody to kill.
That's nice. It looks simple, but this is really good, complicated movements. Like, I've tried to teach this to people many times in my career. It's quite difficult.
Yeah.
It's like, shouldn't die here, but like, as you can see, like, look at all the time wasted. Spells used, 3 heroes, the creep wave dead. Look at what his team is able to do.
Yeah.
Axe is like aggressively farming enemy jungle. He can cut next creep wave. Mid wave is they're just marching down. And this is something like you don't see inferior teams do, where even though 2 heroes are dead on the map, instead of retreating and just sort of giving the map away, they still just try and output pressure and remove the time of the having dead allies from like.
So you noticed, by the way, that you were completely right. Like that is what the Axe did, because that's just a good play. He cuts the wave, then he just farms our jungle. So Fog notices him, obviously because we have a ward here, And I think we do get the kill on him. If I remember, I Reaper Sight them.
Axe is not axe.
Oh, never mind. I Reaper Sight the Queen of Pain? Somebody gets Reapers.
It looks like it's this
The
Ricky.
stench of death
He's getting it.
is upon me.
Nope.
Oh no. Never mind, it's on cooldown. Just kidding.
Yeah.
And the Sven...
So they're behind now. So these plays are cool. They are playing the map really nicely, but the issue is that now you guys are the Terminators, and you're just slaying. Like, you're just all over the place. They can't actually find kills on you, partly due to their heroes being inferior, but also because now you're so far ahead. They can't ever kill Necro, and Necro is going to kill everyone if they try and battle him. So.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in the game, even 20 minutes in, it's over. I just thought the cool part was that they're doing something to expand, like, the possibility of winning, I guess. Like, they're still trying to make game-winning plays. I mean, I think this game is hopeless just from the lineup, if I'm just honest. But it was cool that they still try to make plays around the map to get something done.
Yeah, I actually think they're playing to win. Like, this is a winnable game if their hero composition is just slightly better.
10%
if that Riki
better.
is a lich, I think you guys are in trouble.
Yeah, so Moon, I think, actually picks up a double kill here, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, at this point, there's not much else to talk about, I think. Like, the game just repeats in this fashion. But I thought they did a pretty good job of just giving themselves more options, which I think more teams or more players should try to do. It's like, I think a lot of people are obsessed with the concept of potentially dying, but you just sort of have to take these risks when you're this far behind.
Yeah, I'm happy because I think the bots are utilizing two concepts that I've always sworn by and also had like a lot of resistance to, which is notably one, you want to try and ensure every player on your team has a game. I don't think this idea of having a worthless 5 position that's really a 6 is what you want in the current meta, just because of the way items function and how strong experience is on nearly every hero in Dota thanks to talents. And in addition, they really heavily prioritize what I would call like mid-game carries that don't need a lot of time to come online. They're always strong throughout the game. And while they might fall off in like a 6 slot versus 6 slot against other heroes, like if they're ahead, they stay ahead and they can maintain an advantage. So it just feels suffocating. They really just tighten the vice, and inevitably it feels like they're going to win the game. Like in the first game, again, the game is over at 8 minutes. From then on out, it's just following the script. And I think that that's the ideal way to be playing good Dota. It's just obviously very difficult when you're trying to coordinate with 5 other players. And the 5 couriers do give you a big advantage too, because you can always stay on map, which is an even further big advantage to heroes that are already stronger on map than their opponents.
Yeah.
That was a mouthful, but yeah, that's like all that's what I would say is the coolest.
Yeah. Okay. So again, this is Blitz here with Kyle. Thank you for joining me in reviewing game number 1 and 3, and I think that's going to do it for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. That
For
was
sure. It was fun.
That was interesting. Yeah. You guys, you know what you guys were missing?
What?
You needed a captain, a 5 player
Yeah?
who's fallen from grace.
Need to reclaim some glory?
To pick up the banner. And yeah, next time.
Next
time.
time.
We've learned a lot from this.
100%.
So the bots will have time to train, and I'm sure at some point you'll end up back in San Francisco, and I think that you have a much better shot this time.